Hi, David.
Hi there.
Over to you.
Okay. Right, you should all now be able to see my presentation, hopefully. Um, this is very much kind of, if it was my expertise in photography, I'd be probably talking all day. So what it's really about is about, okay, we're now in a situation where we can't do crime scenes the same way, or we want students to get the experience of using photography, but we can't necessarily do it in the way we used to. So, as the title suggests, it's about remote crime scene photography. And it's really about a series of ideas, principles from the what works to the crazy and zany, as well as a little bit Lego at the end, just to keep Ian Turner happy. Right. Okay, it's not moving on. It is now. Okay. First thing is the classic, if you've ever come across it in friends and family, there used to be a kind of a pack of cards you got, and you try and work out, okay, what is it? And what is it is a good little task for students to do. So have a quick think about what this is, and then very shortly, I'll give you about 5 seconds to work out and think, and then show things. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's actually the can from peeled plum tomatoes. Not sure you can see my cursor or not. You can see there at the very top, you can see that circle there. And what I'm going to do with each of these things is just show what the activity is first of all, and then the principles behind it in terms of photography or students thinking as they're working through things. So the idea of the activity is for students to take photographs of objects, either get even close to one part or zoom in and crop using PowerPoint, and then remembering to save as 2 images, have the 2 for comparison, and they'll pull up a stock of images that what is the part and what is a real thing. And they can then try and get other students to think about what are things, what they're looking at. So kind of an idea of swapping between students. Principle behind it is the importance of general views which are needed, as well as close-ups, and also the benefit of scales. The next one, have a good think, slightly longer, it's been on less time. So I'll give you 10 seconds to have a think about what this is. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'd normally use poll everywhere with this for the students, and a cloud replies. Hopefully you all got that this is a grater. The important thing about this one is just not any grater. So if someone said cheese, you got it wrong. It's actually one for grating nutmegs, which obviously is a smaller grater. So obviously the size is a big difference. Therefore, when you look at the original slide, you can see the small tiny holes. You know it's a grater, but what type of grater? So getting to think about the importance of general views as well as close-ups. Number 2, my favorite, perspective. A key thing is where and when and how we take photographs. This is a classic portrait view. You can see the narrowing from here down through that way to the perspective, that as you look at something, it appears to get narrower the further away we get. In photography, the aim is for students to take 2 photographs of a round object, for example, the face, one as close as you can get with your phone, still be in focus, and one a head and shoulders view. Then zoom on the head and shoulders view so the face is the same size. A follow-up exercise can be photographing a door, either exactly in the middle or then standing up fully, depending how tall you are, and looking down and comparing the 2 images side by side. The big difference there is if you're standing in the middle, it all looks square. If you actually look from up above, you'll see that the bottom of the door appears to be bigger than the top of the door. So perspective, it's important to remember, depends solely on distance. The closer you are, the more exaggerated perspective. The further you are away, the more compressed. So things that might be quite far away appear closer together. So here we've got the classic pictures to lose students' friendliness towards you when you take pictures. See here on the left-hand side, extreme close-up you can get with a nice smartphone cameras. It's important to remember most smartphones have a lens of 3 to 4 millimeters in size, so they're automatically designed for wide views or for getting groups in. And if you go really close, you get introduced like that. This is the normal portrait view with a normal lens, in fact a 70mm or 105 lens, or from being further away and zoomed in. So you can see the difference here. You can see the ears in this one, but here you can't see the ears. So key thing in importance in terms of crime scenes, making sure they're photographing with accuracy and allowing for perspective. Next, one of my favorite hobby horses, no such thing as white light. Well, yes, there is white light. No, there isn't white light. You have to make sure when you're doing things, you define what your color temperature is. Here, key thing here, again, another activity can be done at home, remote learning. Take a photograph of a colored object or range of objects using 2 different light sources. Available light, which should be daylight, though it can vary with times of day. A desk light is tungsten. Then divide the 2 light sources on your subject by a piece of black card or paper in between. You can just do this on one camera, the camera phone, smartphone. Key thing is about importance of stating the color temperature of your light source. White light, what do you mean by white light? In the old days, Kodak used to have a multitude of light sources for light boxes. Warm light, cool white, warm light. And then you've got tungsten, you've got color light. So it's important to think about the color temperature of your light source. Most light sources which are sold as white light are in essence daylight, 5,000 degrees K. Sorry for the sound outside. Due to the color constancy of our visual perception, we see any single light we look at as white, but cameras don't unless they're on auto white balance. And even then, that's not always entirely accurate. So here's a jumper, and we got daylight on the one side and tungsten on the other. Not a dramatic effect, but you can still see there's a difference here. This looks a lot orangier. That looks like a normal red or slight tinges, or 2 slight tinges of blue. Found a folder just to divide between the 2, so light sources don't cross in the middle. Of course, in many situations, unless we're using flash, we'll have available light and other varieties of light as well. This is why to a crime scene we would normally bring flash. Another nice topic students can do at home. Even the main module, I get students to photograph their own rooms at home. It's a good thing to try doing in the first stages of an imaging or photography module. Key things then, taking photographs of the room, trying to get them to think about covering the whole room as a sequence. Then what we do then normally in the classroom is import their images to see whether they'll bring them all together into a single image or a series of images in Photoshop. Quite simply, File, Automate, Photo Merge will allow you to merge all the photographs together for good or ill. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Example, Photoshop does like things being done in a clockwise direction. Also, many students forget camera can be turned to portrait. So put them horizontally, which means you'd have to take more photographs. That's a classic. It's tried to merge things together, but hasn't really worked. And next one is obviously a lab with a proper kit set up for doing a whole kind of panoramic room of one of the labs. You see here students working on copy stand, and also got a copy stand there with lights coming from the side. Next one, number 5, is my strange thing I've started to try and do in terms of I couldn't always get students into the crime scene house, especially got large numbers. So I ended up creating mini crime scenes in my photographic laboratory, photographic room. So all we've got really is just a model. He doesn't say anything, keeps quiet. So might anyone photographing him. unlike most people. And the idea behind it was for students to go as groups and take photographs and record the scene. I have over a period of time used two types of crime scene quizzes. A model in a room like that with lots of items around by, but also in the main laboratory, a whole series of exhibits spread throughout the room for groups of students to wander through and take photographs of. Obviously with COVID-19, the ideal thing with the other photograph here, I do have a room this side, so I could literally have a group waiting there, come through, and then exit. So I need to think about pathways in how we're doing things. Although design is a class activity, could ask students to photograph personal memorabilia from their images, or other students try and work out their hobbies, or where they've been on holiday, or where they live. Key thing in terms of principles is about how photographs are more useful than the memory. Also need to be accurate and methodical and think about what they are photographing and the use of the photographs. Key thing in terms of getting students to think about it is there's a before, i.e. planning, coordinating roles, i.e. someone taking notes while others are photographing, then the actual recording process, photographing, checking the diagrams and notes, then students analysing, because at the end of it I use a quiz, but it's a quiz on PowerPoint or on a sheet of paper, poll everywhere. So I get to think about what questions might be asked from what they observed and recorded. But then they have a go at the answering the questions and see how well they got on. So here, as you can see, a whole series of close-up photographs taken of the scene, which will help them improve their understanding and able to answer questions from the quiz. Oops, didn't mean to have that one in place. Weird. This gives an example of the types of questions. Was a tight on or off when victim acquired the splash of blood? Where the victim travelled to from their train ticket? How they travelled? Make a mobile phone? Just kind of get them thinking about observation. They may be able to make, but can they see how many holes depending on what's their photographs? Which hand was wearing the watch? What to make? Classic one I always like to add was a victim left-handed or right-handed. A lot of them say right-handed because they were wearing a watch in the right hand, but I'm right-handed, but my mum always made me put my watch on my left hand, so I always wear my watch on my left hand even though I'm right-handed, just to confound things. Obviously, if the watch stops same time of day, basically it can be right twice a day. And do you want to go through all those? So you can see here that we've got the another variety of the crime scene, lying down instead of upright. The other thing I tried one time worked quite well, and it might be more for college or getting students to do something in their own time. I got some students to create 3D crime scene models, and the thinking behind this was for them to do the model and create your own crime scene in paper or cardboard, and with separation in time, once they've done that, I will then ask them to plan what photographs they would need to take, and also plan a route to avoid contaminating the scene as they take their photographs. It's all about planning the photograph sequence and the crime scene pathway. Might seem an activity a little bit too kind of primary school, but all the students engaged in it and produced some awkward and fairly gory crime scenes, as one would suspect. As they're hanging from in the bathroom, and there's one that I can't quite work out how they could possibly get anywhere near without lots and lots of plates in terms of steps. There's obviously a basement. You can see they've got a basement here with the steps going down, and the crime scene with a baseball bat and a drill, a little bit on the cardboard side as well as a hatchet. The key thing behind it, again, it's about small activities to get them thinking about the photography, about the recording process of crime scenes. This was one I came up with last night. So my students actually in graphic design, I used to also teach design for social media, Produced a lot of small, interesting kind of animations. I thought, well, I'm going to call this "What Happened." So what you'll see is the students will share their last scene of their animation involving a crime scene. So I'm going to call it. Oops. By the way, for Ian, it includes Lego, or Lego is needed for this one. Without Lego, you can't do anything these days. So the activity is about crime scene reconstruction or animation. So getting students to make an animation showing a crime being committed. Use your imagination. Yeah, students have got imagination, they try to enjoy these kind of things. You take an animated sequence using a smartphone. Might need to get a mini tripod or record for the same position each time you take a picture. Then the image can be imported into a program like Sequence, lots of other programs that are free online, and converted into a small movie. You can also alter the frames per second as well. In the last frame, make sure you have left evidence for someone else to view. And then swap your final scenes. So students will swap their final scenes and try to get other students to think about how did the crime occur, and try to work out, reconstruct it before they view the animation. So view the animation a little bit later on afterwards. Again, looking at evidence at a crime scene, and also what other views besides the final single image do you need to be able to tell more about the actual crime itself. So this was the original one. Apologies, I think, to Pulp Fiction, the one to the movies my students have been watching. So this is the original animation. It is soundless. Yep. So as you can see the sequence there, look at the image first of all. This one here, this is the final end scene where disaster has taken place. This is an occupational health one. And you can see Lego based. So run the old movie. Even a bit of health and safety, the lads are being blocked for the second story and third story. A disaster. Then the building falls down because it wasn't built properly. So the idea behind that one, obviously, is to try and create a bit of interest, a bit of fun things around crime scene photography and other types of animation. Whoops, I see him again. If you obviously will have the copies of the PowerPoint slides later on, and I'll try and put some other resources together in terms of online sites for photo editing and things like that. It's very much kind of an idea about different ideas and concepts around getting students to get active with their cameras outside the laboratory and outside of our fantastic crime scene houses. That's it. Hand over to you, Rachel.
Hi, David. Thank you for that. That's really interesting question. I've got one before Leisha's going to follow up with some questions from the Q&A box. I'm really interested. What do you think the most challenging bit is going to be about teaching photography remotely this year?
I think the basic thing is they've actually cancelled my module.
No.
It's that normally friends, I would normally run my forensic imaging module in the spring semester, and they thought to themselves, okay, we're not going to be able to cope with this, we'll just cancel it.
Oh, no.
But I'll still be doing some photography, hopefully somewhere in the system. This is why I've been trying to think about, okay, how do I go from doing things in the real world to COVID-19 world instead? I think it is possible, but it's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm going to try and end up doing is putting materials online for students to access as and when they want to, in terms of background reading materials. In other words, a basic photography course. I've always wanted to get a module in the first, second year, and third year, but never been able to. Mm-hmm. It's always like that. You just got one second year module to do everything in, which is a bit of a squash anyway.
Yeah. Would you be you know, if it was to go ahead and the bits that you are going to be teaching photography on, how are you going to provide feedback to the students? Are they going to send you pictures in and
I think
feedback?
I think I'll probably do it the old what I used to do, certainly when I got a strange background. I used to be in half art design and half science. And the art design side, I used to regularly have websites where students can load up photographs to get feedback. So rather than, I would normally set them an exercise, for example, go and take some photographs that show you understand exposure or perspective, time. They put their images in, then the following week we'd have feedback on those images. Do the same things online. So basically load them up to a Flickr or onto Behance or a Photoshop.com site, load the images up, and then get feedback from themselves and their peers, but also from us as well. So that works really well.
Excellent. That's fab. I know we've got some other questions, so I'm going to hand over to Leisha so that hopefully someone else gets a different voice rather than just...
I'm here. Hello, David. We have a question regarding the teaching models you've used, which involve the paper ones. Have you also explored some of the smartphone apps for photography as well?
I have, yes. I think they're a great way to bring things in, especially in terms of not just photography, but also doing a sketch or a plan. So literally being able to kind of click in each corner of the room using your iPad, and you've got your sketch and your plan. So they're very useful. The other one I've also tried is, again, it's stuck in lockdown at the moment in my lab. I've got a scanner I can put onto my iPad, and I can then scan people, or do a scan a whole room. Or if you move around a person, you can get a 3D model of them, or 3D model of things in crime scene. So I think things are moving that way much more strongly. I think the only issue is the cost of the programs, the software. But as usual, they're more forensic science specialists, therefore more expensive for us in education. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, again. Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay, David?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yep. Suzanne asked a question about repository failure. I do a regular session in the second years in our module called Crime Scene to Court, and the whole essence of the module is about a raw workflow. So talking about metadata, backing up things, making sure the information is embedded in the images as they're stored and loaded onto a server. It's not the most exciting lecture in the world when they talk about metadata, but the beauty of it now is that once you've import the raw files, then export what you need.
I don't know. Apologies, everyone. I was having connection.
All right. Okay. The good thing is that embedding data within your image is an important thing to be talking about to students. I'm not sure about repository failure. I think that's that's an issue to do with servers and spaces, and that's as much to do with IT as it is to do with photography. So probably don't teach that in the same way as it will probably be taught on more the digital media workshop kind of territory.
Apologies, David. I'm having connection issues. Can you hear me?
I can now, yes. Any further questions?
Carry on, David. That's I think Leisha's still trying to connect.
Right, okay.
Leisha.
Yeah, because I'm trying to see if there's any other questions on the system.
Yeah, we've definitely got one around what about the kit that's needed to do it at home? Would a smartphone be okay for students to utilize?
Absolutely. All the ideas I've got are predicated on being able to do it with a smartphone. So you don't have to have an ordinary camera. Okay, there are things like the color one. You have to make sure you try and get a line of paper directly down your lens or near your lens. but that's probably a little bit difficult. But in principle, the very much the perspective one that was done with a smartphone. So it's making students don't win friends with each other when they're doing that kind of smartphone one, but it's good fun in the classroom anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And Suzanne was also talking about or asking about the rule of threes, and whether you're it's great for teaching online. Are you doing this?
Well, it's if you mean, do you mean the rule of three in terms of photographic rule, or the rule of six and just 16? I mean, I'll go there. I think also these days a lot of time we're talking about 4 parts of the circle. So we're talking about light, we're talking about ISO, we're talking about aperture, and we're talking about time. So already 4 issues for forensics. So it's not just okay, when you think about ISO, aperture, and time, we do really need to think about the lighting we're providing to the crime scene. So it's very much those 4 things at the same time. I think the only thing I will say is I tend to be a bit old-fashioned. Therefore, the ISO is usually fixed at 100 ASA, if not slower if possible. The light source is daylight or flash. Therefore, the only things you've got to worry about are time and aperture. And as most of the time we want good depth of field, then the exposure comes in terms of time. For long exposures, or where you're using flash, you're providing a light source will provide us a good depth of field. So it's trying to get students to understand those things is not easy. And the difficulty is that you can't actually understand those things without using a real camera as opposed to a smartphone. Although you can adjust things on a smartphone, but probably not as easily as you can with a normal single lens reflex camera.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we've had any further questions. I think you've covered all of the ones that our attendees have asked. But I wanted to just say thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your ideas of how, hopefully you will get to do some remote teaching as well, and the module can be rerun.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, we'd very much say a similar thing around using what you can, whatever the students have available to them, to learn the premises, and then you can critique them, you can expand on them, you can peer review each other's work, and try and then linking in the work that Bob was talking about earlier in terms of the networking and getting them more socially online in order to do that feedback.
Yeah, exactly. And if anyone's got any other questions they didn't manage to ask, they can always email me anyway, and happy to answer anything and help anyone.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So I mean, really, it just leaves me to say thank you all to everyone who attended today. I hope each one of you has taken away something that you might be able to put into practice, or has sparked an idea. It was absolutely amazing to see on Twitter people saying, oh, just in the first CSI remote forensic CSI event, someone said something and it sparked this idea, and now I've created this resource, and here you go, look at what I'm doing. So we're hopefully going to be sharing that with you with our next remote forensic CSI event, which we're hoping to be every month. And obviously at the moment people are now going into teaching, or have been teaching, so haven't been able to join us live. But if you do have some experiences now, maybe you didn't before, but you do now, and you want to share with the community how it went, what went well, maybe what didn't go well, and any tips and advice that you'd really like to share with us, we'd really love to hear from you. So please do get in touch with myself. So I'm Rachel. Also, you've got Ian Turner at Derby. You've also got Leisha Nichols-Drew over at De Montfort. Any one of us would be really happy to host you and to enable you to share your expertise and your experience, so that we're all learning with this together. Thanks so much to everyone who asked questions. Hopefully those have all been answered. And if anyone, as David said, as Bob said, if anyone has any more questions that you'd like to ask, get in touch with them directly, or come through us, absolutely no problem at all. If you'd like to be added to the email distribution list because you've not and you want to be informed about our next event, or if you'd like to also join our networking group, which is totally self-led by everybody who joins the community, so that you can all constantly share ideas, even though you maybe don't want to share in this kind of live and very visual forum. But thanks so much for your support. Great to be gaining interest, but also wanted to let you know that we're also on a lecture remotely, where we'll be sharing our resources on our pack. And what I'll also do is I'll publish a link now, so that we're going to give this a try, and I really apologise if it doesn't work. But if anyone does want to sort of stay back after this live event and join a networking meeting, so it's a normal Teams event, so only if you're here live, we will be staying back so that hopefully you can share your camera, share your audio, and if you want to chat with any of us, anyone who can stay and would like to stay, we're more than welcome to join in that community together. So without further ado, really great to have you, and look forward to hearing your feedback in whatever way you'd love to share it. Take care all. Have a great start to your season, or your semester, or your term. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.